morning and welcome back to the Dice Tower. I'm Camilla.
I'm Joey Evans.
I'm Z Garcia.
We're going to be taking a look at Divinity Original Sin, the board game. This is not the video game, folks. It is based on the video game, hence the same title as the video game. You see now? Yes. I actually played the video game because of this board game.
Oh, so you played the board game first.
Well, I read the rule book and then I played the video game just to kind of like understand it a little bit more because there was something, well, you know what? Let's figure out how to play, then we'll talk about that a little bit more, how it relates to the video game. All right, let's check out Divinity Original Sin, the board game. This is going to play 1 to 4 players. The box says ages 14 plus, and it'll play about 60 minutes. It is a fully cooperative game, and that 60-minute time frame is really up to your discretion, because this is going to be a campaign game. In it, you are trying to get through all of the locations in this big location book, or the Divine Atlas. So you have a couple different stopping points. You can keep going session to session, but there's a natural stopping point after each location. There's a lot going on here. I'm going to try to zoom in on a couple different parts of it just to make it a little more clear. But as always, this is just going to be a general overview, specifically going through the tutorial section to avoid spoilers. A couple different components that you'll always need to have out are your status cards, of which there are a lot of different ones. I just have a couple out here to talk about specifically later. Your different location modifiers. You will need your location deck, which is going to be, depending on which location you're playing, your character area, which we'll get into more depth later, and then over here, this status board or the round tracker and your boss mats over here. And everyone has a standee as well. Once you have all that, you are ready to jump in. So you're going to open the book to the location you are going to be playing, which in this case, again, we'll go through the tutorial. Let's zoom in on it a little bit though. The first thing you're going to see here on the locations is going to be some sort of flavor text, which is going to set the scene, and then specific location setup. This here tells us which deck we're going to need. We're playing in the torture chamber, so we would get that deck out. It's going to tell us where to set our time tracker, and we would do that over here, which is your running clock, the amount of time that you have to get out of this location to find an exit and progress to the next location, and then where to start. We all start in the torture chamber up here on location number 1, which is going to be annotated here. Each location has its own little picture here and is going to be connected by some pathway. Now, all of these locations are considered connected. Movement is very open in this, so on your turn, if you're going to move, you don't have to count 1, 2 spaces. You can just go straight there, unless one of these paths are blocked, which you will end up seeing in future locations like this. Until you find a key to unlock that, you cannot go into that room. All right, at this point, if there are no baddies on the map, then the Origins can take a explore round, and that's when they're going to be going around and just trying to find either an exit or goodies or figure out how to get through this location. So the first thing they're going to do is travel any distance to another location that's accessible on the map here. So in this case, I would maybe go up to the stairs leading up. I'll stay in the torture chamber for now, though. They do not have to move. The second thing they're going to do is slide all of the cooldowns available on their player mat. We'll talk about that when we go into the player mat a little more specifically, but for now, just know they also slide down at the start of the turn. The second thing that you do is to explore the actual locations that you're at. If there's more than one origin at the location, they both explore together, and this can be done at any time. So if someone's in the torture chamber and captain's quarters, all players decide together which one resolves first. You would go to your deck, you would take out that card and read it. It is either going to be some sort of challenge that you have to make. It might be some baddies that are kind of spawn out and then you have to fight them. A lot of different things can happen. It might also be an exit, because hopefully that's what you're looking for, is an exit, again, in order to get through this location, win the game by getting through all the locations and escaping here. The last thing that you're going to do is advance the time tracker by 1. So once each location is resolved, the time tracker does advance by 1. After that, we would go into another round. This continues until you can no longer do an explore round because there's baddies on the board, which we can talk about a little bit more specifically now, because the last part of the setup here is to immediately resolve location card 1, which I had not done because it sets us up for a combat turn. In the combat turn, it's going to tell you what kind of baddies here are going to spawn, if they are fast or if they are slow, and like what you have to do to take them out here. So for example, on this one, let's slide this just a little bit so we can take a look at this. Here we're going to have the Darkies Lackeys. Lackey. So we would go and pull out Dark Hands Lackey. Dark Hands Lackey here, and for a 2-player, it's just going to be one of those. We would spawn one of those out, and let's put him on board B. It tells us he's going to be fast, so he's going to go up here on fast, and he comes out on location 3. So he is on the B board, so we would take B and put it right here. Each of these baddie boards also has the stats built in here and the tracker built in, so we can see this Dark Hands Lackey is going to have 28 health. So we would go ahead and set that accordingly. And with that, we are ready for a combat round. So once we finish an explore round, we start a new round, and we can no longer explore because there's a baddie on the board, so we have to go into a combat round. For that, I want to take a look at our player board. All right, on our board here, we will kind of see a cheat sheet of how a combat round is going to go. First, the fast baddies will take their turn, then all origins will take their turn, and then any slow baddies that we've slotted down here will take their turn, at which point we would then reset a round and go into another combat round or an explore round. So the first up is going to be our fast baddies. They are going to roll a targeting die here and to figure out which origin they are going to attack. If they get the boot, that's going to be the closest, and if they get the target symbol here, they will have some sort of special targeting. In this case, it is the one with the lowest strength. They have a move map value that's going to be listed as well. In this case, it is 3, and he is going to target a single origin. So in this case, he would move into here, and then if he got that targeting symbol, and then he would attack me here. Ivan is who is here at this location. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to target and then move, and they always move until their max range is reached, and then they will attack. In order to attack, they will roll the dice that are listed on their card here. In this case, it is 5 white, so let me grab those. He is going to roll those dice, and it'll either have a single attack, a double a hit, or it'll have their special here. If they roll this special, then there's usually some sort of modifier on their board here. So in this case here, it would be for 1, 2, 3, 4, plus this modifier for each of these rolled, add plus 2. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits to Ivan. When we look at Ivan here, we see that he has some banded armor attached, which gives him plus 3 shields, so he will only be taking 3 hits on his health here. So he went from 9 to 6. The last thing any of these baddies are going to do is slide any cool down any statuses that they have. For example, if he was poisoned at a 2, it would go down to poisoned 1 at the end of their activation. After that's done, we'll clear those dice and the origins take a turn. Okay, so our origins here are going to take some turns in which they will use their action points. Any unused action points do carry over to the next round, and you each gain a number of action points on your turn based on the number on the top left corner of your card here, of your origin card. So Ivan here is going to get 4. He will get 4 each round. If last round he had saved 2, then this round he would have 6 to spend. But this is first round, so he has 4 to spend. You're going to spend those action points to, well, take actions, sometimes to heal or to make attacks. You have a hand of cards, which are going to be different spells and things like that you can use, and they're going to have a cost in the top right-hand corner. So let's say, for example, that he wants to do this. Let's see, let's pick a good one. Okay, let's look at this one. Let's look at the mosquito swarm. Let's say he's going to do a mosquito swarm. It is going to take 2 action points to do that. 1, 2, and it is going to have a cooldown of 2. So when we're done with this, I cannot use it for 2 rounds as it will go into this cooldown 2 spot here. Has a range of 1 and is going to target a single baddie. So in this case, he has a range of 1. He doesn't need it. He's in the same space as B, so we'll go with that. He's going to roll 3 white dice. And that was not a very good roll. We're going to redo that one. That's a little bit better. We'll work with that one. So 3 white dice plus his current level bonus, which on his card here we see is 1. So he is hitting for 1, 2, and then he has a special here, which again might be affected by the card. If your target is bleeding, you're going to roll 3 blue dice instead of the white. He is not currently bleeding, so that didn't affect. Then if you roll any of these special sides, you heal equal to the number of hearts your target loses. So this would activate that in this case. equal to the number of hearts they lose. He's getting hit for 1. He has 1 shield, so he loses no heart. We heal none. That doesn't really help us at all, but he completed that using his 2 actions. This one is now exhausted and will cool down at the end of the turn. We still have 2 actions left, at which point maybe he would make a basic attack or play another card. But after you've used all the actions you want to, then you will slide all your stuff down 1 in your cooldown up here. If you had statuses, they would cool down as well at this same time, so they would cool down. Anything that cools down past comes back into your hand. Now that all the origins have completed their turn, our slow baddies would go. After that, everyone's taken their turn, round advances, and once again we look at the board to see if we're still in combat or if we're able to do an explore round. So there's still a baddie on the board. We were not able to defeat him, so we would have to do another combat round, starting from the top with our fast baddies. The third option of the type of round that you can do is you can take a rest action, or a rest round. If there are no baddies on the board, let's say that we have defeated this lackey, then we can do the rest round, in which everybody can do any number of kind of healing actions. You can either heal for 2, revive any of our origins that have been down because they were knocked out in combat. You can change around your equipment, or you can use any skill that you have and not have to spend the points on it. So for example, if you have a healing potion or something like that, you can use it as well without having to pay that action cost during a rest round. At the end of a rest round, just like every other round, you advance the tracker 1 time. Now, each of these locations are going to have some special events that happen if you reach the bottom here. For example, on this one, if we were not able to defeat the lackey by the time it got to 0, it says here that we would reveal location card A, which is probably going to be either a really bad negative effect or some sort of reset for the location here. And that's it. So like I said, your goal here is to make it through this big book of locations. You're going through each one just looking for a way out. Some of these locations have multiple ways out, and it's going to be your choice which way to go. You'll be unlocking different story paths, upgrading your cards, upgrading your origin completely, and you can see leveling up here and choosing different schools of magic to invest in as you go as well. So that'll be a very high overlook here for Divinity Original Sin, the board game. Let's head back up top and hear our thoughts on it. Okay, so there you go. Campaign game, lots going on. Obviously, new rules as you get going through it,
Sure.
Different concepts as you get your source power unlocked and things like that. But overview of how to at least get started and into Divinity Original Sin, the board game. That being said, it also comes with a great tutorial, which I talked about in there. It is I think there's 2, maybe 3 pages of rules that you read, and then you jump right into that tutorial scenario, which is actually 2 or 3 locations as well, which it's one of those play to learn kind of style games.
Right.
That's a huge positive for me.
I really like that.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I really like that. That's becoming more of a mainstream thing to do, to kind of the training wheels and go, and yeah, I love that.
Right.
And it's interesting. It's normally done for particularly complex games.
Right.
And if it's done at all, it's done for games like that, and ideally it's done well. What's interesting for this one is, A, it's done well, but B, this game's not that complex.
No, it's not.
So I'm glad that that's in here, even for a game of this weight and sort of this difficulty of learning, because I think they could have gotten away with not including something like this.
Right.
But the fact that it is in there eases that entry even more. I think that was my main surprise with this game was, oh, this is not what I expected this dungeon crawl to be.
Right.
This is not the typical big old map, tons of miniatures,
Tons of
moving
setup.
on hexes,
Right.
rules galore, the bench is deep, this isn't that.
No.
This is, it almost feels again like they are targeting folks that are not board gamers
Right.
and just like this video game.
But what's interesting about that is, like I said, I read the rule book, And then I was like, maybe I need a little bit more context, not because I wasn't understanding it, but just I'm a big themer and I wanted to kind of get into it. So I played the video game a little bit and I was like, oh, that was fun, but I have no idea what happened. Like I don't understand why certain effects are happening. And then I played the board game and I'm actually seeing stuff cool down and I'm seeing status effects. And all of a sudden I go back to play the video game, I'm like, oh, it makes so much sense now.
Right.
That's what that token means. So it's really funny because I think it's targeting people that play the video game, but as a board gamer, learning it this way made me understand and appreciate and feel so much more comfortable in the video game. And I thought that was the opposite of what I would expected.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I really like that. And then you also touched on it having this big world feel without all these towering miniatures, and it's one box, not 7, things like that. One thing I really appreciate in this game is that mix of miniatures and standees.
Sure.
So as you saw here, your baddies and your bosses are represented by cards, and they are going to relate to a specific token that you put out on the board with a number.
Yeah.
But your characters are still miniatures,
Right.
and I like that because I still like that world immersion. And if I'm playing the same character multiple times, I want that experience of having a miniature.
Right.
But I don't want one boss that I'm going to use one miniature I'm going to use one time in that one location or scenario, because that just seems wasteful.
And even not having the setup on this is so easy, comparing it to whether it's Frosthaven or one of those, to find those monsters, all that stuff. You've got the cards, and the cards do just as well. You look at the picture of the card, you know how to set it out. It sets out so quick, and it's not just a spiral-bound book, which I love, but it's just the way it sets up. It comes out so quickly, which is a huge rarity in something like this.
Right.
I agree. To me, the game, even though it's based on this computer RPG game, what this board game feels like to me is a point-and-click adventure.
Yes.
From back in the day, where you have this display.
It really does.
In one area, and you're like, okay, I'm going here. You travel over there, you read a little card, something happens, and then you might go, as things happen, to a new scene, and you flip over the page. So it feels like a point-and-click adventure. It gives you story. It gives you some immersion, things happening. I love even the flipping over the page when you finish an act or whatever.
Right.
There's just a big splash of a scene. It's not even like a page you play on. It's just cool artwork. And you're like, sweet.
Or it's kind of like comic.
Act 2 kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I love that stuff.
It has that
comic.
it has that cutscene because it will be this big, splashy comic, and they're saying different things like, oh, and that was my cutscene. Here's the next location.
Yeah.
For some reason, the maps aren't overwhelming. There's not like a hex of all these places to go and all this. But when you see that, it also grabs your curiosity more. If there's 6 rooms, you're like, I wonder what's in the barracks.
Yeah.
It's like, oof, I want to go over here. And that right there, I really love that. And each one will cause the story to branch.
Right.
And I really like that. Another thing that I love about this is the initiative system. That in Gloomhaven and Frosthaven, again, to go into those, as far as the order which you go, this is like fast, slow Origins. I really like that.
Very simple.
It's quick. You focus on the game and the combat rather than the bookkeeping. I really like that aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The one thing I did want to point out, you talked about how quick it is getting to the table and the setup, and I just want to point that out that is from the time you open the box as well. Like the first time you're opening the box, one thing I love, I think it's right here. Yeah, I kept them just because I thought it was so cool. But when you're punching the game on the punch board, it tells you what all the tokens are. So when you're going through and you're organizing this for the first time, or you're setting it up and it says, place your, boss standee, essentially, oh, it's right here because it says it. And there's extra ones in there, and it was like, you don't need this token. This is an extra token. Like all the tokens are labeled on the punch board. The directions to assemble the health dials is on the punch board so that you're seeing it here. You need it one time. I don't need it in the rule book forever. Right. I need it that one time when I punch it. I just found that so convenient and genius. It's really just eased that first time. The second thing I love is in here, there are 2 separate trays. The bottom trays is everything for the game. Everything for the campaign that you're going to play for. The top tray is everything for the tutorial. So there's characters in the tutorial that you'll also play. There's a second copy of that in the game. So the very top one is you're keeping that tutorial system separate so that if you need to play it again with a new group or whatever, you have it right there too. Or it's just up there.
Yeah, I like that
you open it up, it's like, don't go past this level until you know how to play.
I like that. Yeah.
I love that. The entry to this game is so low, I feel like.
They really did a good job getting it, making it easy to get into, to understand, to open this up and not feel overwhelmed. They are literally hiding most of the components from you the first time you open the box.
Yep.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Labeling that. Brilliant, obvious, but brilliant. But so many people don't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that's a great way to do it. Now, as far as negatives go, for me, the only big obvious one is campaign being like the main delivery mode here. And I understand it's based on an RPG, computer RPG that has a story. You go through it. It's sort of the path of least resistance, and the obvious play here is making this a campaign game. I like that it is a different style of campaign. Again, it kind of feels like a point and click, but it's another campaign game. And there's only so many of those you can really dive into, you know? There's a lot of bandwidth that's required by campaign games. I will say, I've played a decent amount of them. I do think this one feels different from a lot of campaign games.
I agree.
It's just its own thing. It's kind of, that flipping over a whole page, and I expected when I first, the first time we saw that, I expected hexes.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's like screenshots from locations.
Yes.
That just represent a place. Okay. That's different. That's very different. So I like that. My negatives are, there's not that many of them. I do enjoy the game quite a bit. And I think I guess the other one would be character progression. I did find a little slow.
Interesting.
As the characters level up and you get new spells or whatever. I thought that it was a little slow pace to sort of get cooler gear. Felt a little slow pace. I remember when we first did it, actually, and then got the deck of leveled up abilities for whatever class you pick. And we made a mistake the first time we did it where we took higher levels. We just as we were like picking, and then before we even play, we're like, oh wait, these say down here the level.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to get most of this.
Yeah.
That comes like 2 levels later, and then some more, a couple levels after that. So I think that progression's a little slow.
Okay. Yeah. I think for me, the biggest drawback is it does have a little bit of, I guess, keyword soup. You know, kind of, or status soup is kind of what it comes across as. I'll say I think the game mitigates that very well. It kind of knows it's its weakness, and so all the statuses have a description on them as well, so as you get them. But there's just a lot of little moving parts with those statuses to make sure that they cool down correctly. Some of them, every time you use that word on it, it cools down. Other ones, it's just on your turn, the cooldown, so that gets a little bit finicky. Sometimes with the cooldown, your cards go face down. Sometimes they go face up, and then their turn face down at a certain point. So it's just a little bit mucky in those things. But again, that's also the mechanism that very much made me understand the video game. So if that's something you're familiar with, that definitely is a me problem. But it did feel a little bit like, what is this status again? What does it do? Little bit soupy, but I think they mitigate it pretty well in it. So.
I agree. The status effects were the ones that kind of got me. It's funny how it's almost like that commercial where everything's going and then somebody writes a check. At the checkout, and then all of a sudden it's like you're flowing, then you're like, there's a status effect. Let me.
Right. Oh, this land is wet. What does that mean?
Yeah.
It's wet and I have fire. How does that
Right. Does it mitigate?
Yeah.
Does it let me check this? And I know if you make this a lifestyle game where you're going to finish it, by the middle you're going to know everything and you're going to go.
Oh,
right.
Yeah,
way
real
before
quick.
that,
Yeah.
probably.
Right. But that's also another thing is like Z said, the campaign. Because it is compared to campaigns, it's like, I really wish there were some more one-shots and the ways you can just jump in and have a blast for a couple hours with this. And there's not. It's just, it's a full campaign. So committed to it, it would be a great game.
Yeah. All right. With that, do you want to jump into final thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm going to come in at an 8, right below 8.5, because I really enjoy the game. Problem is, it is going up against a lot of other campaign games. But I'll tell you, it does a lot of things better, and I can only see that going up. So I'm going at an 8 and right below 8.5 because I don't see myself finishing the campaign, which that is what's keeping it from that 0.5, because I would really need to jump into this. If they had a place to jump in, I'd be all about it, because the mechanics I think are great. It's easy of hitting the table, the rolling the dice, everything is just fun and enjoyable with this.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm also wavering between an 8 and an 8.5. I really do enjoy it, and I think I'm going to go ahead and push it into that 8.5 for originality.
Nice.
I think, again, there's a couple of things that, yeah, the campaign, it's a little slow. It's not quite languid, but it's a little slow. I do wish the character progression was a little faster, but this is such a refreshing game play for a big box like this. It is not what I expected, and I like what it's doing. This idea of it's a snapshot scene. We travel within it. You search and read and find stuff. Get into combat. The game switches up a little bit. You go through this fun card manipulation and cooldown, and then you get out, flip the page, new scene, new encounter.
Yeah.
I love the arc. I just wish the cadence was a little faster.
Right.
Having said that, it's a really fun game. They knocked it out of the park, making this something that is clearly tied to the video game, and yet so accessible. I really do think this is one of the more accessible
Easily.
games of its type out there. If somebody was like, I never played any of these games, I'm a little intimidated. I'm like, Divinity Original Sin is, you can get into that.
Right.
Easily. Yeah, I agree.
And this is having played both now video game and board game, it's one that had I only played the video game, it's one that I would say, I don't know how that they could make a board game work out of this.
Right.
There's too much going on. There's too many statuses, that kind of stuff. But I'm with you. I think they absolutely nailed it. This is a 9 for me. I was tempted to even go higher, like 9.5, even maybe 10. I think for me personally, what pulls it back is it's not a theme. I don't love fantasy. That being said, I'm perfectly fine with fantasy. It's just I'm more sci-fi is kind of more my thing. But the gameplay is just so rich and so good that it made me care about this, and I wanted to go explore the world more.
Yeah.
It is a
I agree.
campaign. I know campaigns are definitely my wheelhouse. You know, that's my preferred kind of way to play games. But this is one that I will seek out playing through. I really enjoy it. I think it manages to invoke the video game so well, but still feel extremely fresh. As a board game, mechanically, it's really smooth. It's really engaging. I love you talked about how the story branches. It's a choose your own adventure game as much as you want it to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking for an exit, and you might find 3 exits. Which one do you choose? Or do you just find an exit and jump on that exit? You know, it's whichever one comes up first is the one I'm taking. I love that autonomy that comes from it. It's engaging. I just find myself fully engrossed in every gameplay and thinking about it afterward and coming back to this world mentally. I really like it. So for me, Divinity Original Sin is going to be a 9. So that is that. That's our thoughts on Divinity Original Sin. Thanks for joining us here. I'm Camilla.
I'm Joey Evans.
I'm Z Garcia.
All right, we'll see you next time.